Hello, guys, and welcome to this later than usual rendition of my weekly market update. Let's waste no time. It is an interesting time in the crypto market right now. You see it on the green numbers here on the side. Let's dive directly into what is happening on the charts. First things first, as always, we talk about the Bitcoin dominance. We can see that we had quite a corrective week for the Bitcoin dominance, which is what we like to see because we had 3 consecutive weeks before that where the Bitcoin dominance rise and rise and rise. So it is good that we see a retest here, some sort of a reset that gives the Bitcoin dominance even more firepower to eventually climb those levels here and at least touch 62.40. That's still my target. Until we do not see a clear reversal pattern here on the Bitcoin dominance, I would still stay away from altcoins. Of course, there are some gains to be made on altcoins right now, but before the market direction is clear, it is quite unwise to enter into a trade. I rather enter into the trade when I know that it is really altcoin season. So let's go for our next chart, which is the Bitcoin. And we can see such a beautiful claim of 80k here. We broke the last all-time high, which was marked by this box. We had a nice sell-off reaction here, which was perfect into our buy setup down here, which was another very nice hit. So this was a 4-hour zone, which I spoke about. I looked for this entry here earlier. We can see this was on Sunday. So then the week opened. And I took my first profit just as I told you already at this level here. Then I got stopped out at even with the rest of my trade. And then I entered this lower hidden one-day QMC. I call it hidden because if we look at the line chart here, you will see immediately what I mean. This here is not a strong support. We spoke in an earlier episode about looking for capital A or capital V letters, stuff like this. Or stuff like this up here, which this doesn't have. But it still was, I think, quite an important resistance because we already checked it here earlier and also a few times back here. And yeah, I think it was quite a good level. So I took a look at it and I found this entry here, which I just named hidden. It wasn't that hidden after all if you looked good enough. And we took that trade, perfect hit here for the entry just before the pump. We then had another 4-hour continuation setup here that has not been hit. And we straight up pumped to a new all-time high in basically one candle. Very nice. We now see new 4-hour zones emerging up top here in the 42 to 43, 400 zone. We also see this buy zone here, which is below 70k. Will be interesting if we drop below that ever again. If we do, then this might be quite a good entry if it's only a short retrace and not a longer corrective phase we're going into. We will see about that. So far, if we look at the daily chart again, we can see it's basically all green. It's like 6 days green candles. So there's nothing we can trade on the daily chart here that would give us an entry. Because the trading system I use is always based on past data, and since there is no past data, because this is a new price region for Bitcoin, we cannot yet determine any points of retest. You could use Fibonacci levels for this. You could use some sort of Elliott wave, which is also including Fibonacci levels. But for me, I will just wait until a clear daily setup shows up, and then we would just trade it. If we go down to the time frames here, there's nothing really. Now there's nothing I would consider worth using as a long entry. No. We can maybe argue about this 4-hour zone here because we had again a low, which is then followed by a high. There's the low, there is the high. We have a lower low that broke the previous structure from, at least this year. Mostly, and then we had a higher high that really broke the structure. So I would look at this zone here if I would like to take a 4-hour long. We could do that. It is quite a risky zone, I think, again, because I like to trade the daily chart on Bitcoin. So we will just wait until we have a nice setup here. Let's jump into Ethereum. Because Ethereum, unlike Bitcoin, which is already in price discovery mode, is not there, not at all. There's still a lot of room to go. There's just a lot of price movement, like another at least 30% until we reach the all-time high. So there is a huge resistance coming up, which is a weekly resistance. It is this one here. It is quite ugly. And if this wick here, it actually goes even lower than this. Yeah, it's quite an ugly resistance we have here, but nevertheless, it is an important level. If we take a look at the monthly, then we can see that it does lack any sort of bearish engulfing. But it still looks like we might see a reaction here. We already see sell pressure building up on Ethereum at around this level. We already had a bigger retraction here. So let's see if we actually get a reaction. If we do on the weekly, then we will find a continuation setup on the daily. If we do not get a reaction on the weekly, then we will find a daily setup that will allow us to enter a long position, which would be normally entering at our regular stop loss from the weekly setup. So that is Ethereum. We are waiting. We are waiting for this. Last time we spoke about weekly closes. Let me just get rid of those arrows here. We spoke about a weekly close above this line, which did not happen. We retracted down very far. This looks, though, like we might get a weekly close outside. If we do get a weekly close above this yellow line here, above this, not yellow, the purple line, and also the yellow, I guess, at that point, this box here, this will be activated. This will be a perfect entry to go for long positions in long-term Ethereum holdings. Very nice place to enter. Keep you updated on that. I think we will have maybe a special update tomorrow or maybe on Tuesday. And then we speak about the weekly closes and what that means for our chart. So let's now jump into two more indices I want to speak about. The first one being the S&P 500 or the SPX. That's at least the ticker for it. So I expected a recession at earlier levels, which I already told you. We didn't get that. We actually got a retest. And we, with the election of Trump now, and the winnings have the buy into that phase, into the election phase in the US, we have a very nice pump here. Currently, we could enter a long position if we want at the 5,800 mark. If we go back there in close time, not that far from now. I would rather again wait for a clear setup to be printed here, especially on the weekly. This looks like a very pumpy candle. This might either mark the beginning of a new trend, like down here, when we had a smaller correction, or this might be the end of a trend. Usually those candles seem to be appearing at either one of those. So we will just take a look at what is going to happen over the next week or two and then determine where our trades should happen, if our trades should happen at all, if we see something interesting there. So now let's jump into the other indices, so to speak. So I use the S&P 500 as some sort of a general bullish or bearish sentiment for tech stocks, and since Bitcoin is now getting more and more mined by bigger companies who are tech stocks, the correlation is still there. So let's go to the Dixie. The Dixie itself, I expected it to drop harder here. It didn't yet. It actually managed to clear the last, I think this is a monthly resistance. No, it is actually a weekly resistance. Yeah, it cleared the weekly resistance already. There are no other resistances besides this one here up top, or maybe even this one, we could also argue about this level here, the 116. So if it actually manages to break above this weekly sell box we have here, we might see a very strong rise in the Dixie, which would mean a recession for the EU and also maybe for China and definitely for Russia. That would be interesting to see. We will definitely also keep that in our sight. So for now, I think this is everything I can give you. Of course, we can speak about gold and like Ethereum Bitcoin chart, but there nothing happened here. We are still in our zones. I don't think there's a reason to waste time on this. So we will just do it in the next update. For now, I wish everybody of you a very good start into the next week. Have a good evening. If you plan to trade in the next week, as always, keep your stop losses tight, stick to the script, don't get too emotional, and only trade what you can lose. And until next time, bye-bye.